The great ships came from the sky on a cold morning in December. They hung above every major city on Earth like mountains made of metal. The whole world stopped. People looked up with fear and wonder. Nobody knew what would happen next. The aliens called themselves the Valorian Collective. They were tall creatures with gray skin and 4 arms. Their eyes were completely black, and they moved with a strange grace that made humans uncomfortable. They had traveled across the galaxy for thousands of years. They had conquered hundreds of worlds. They had technology that humans could not even begin to understand. But they did not come to destroy Earth. They came to trade. The Valorian ambassador was named Kalos. He stood before the United Nations Assembly and spoke through a translation device that made his voice sound flat and mechanical. He explained that the collective was always looking for new resources. They had scanned Earth from orbit and found nothing of value. The planet was small. Its metals were common. Its energy sources were primitive. The collective had seen 1,000,000 worlds like Earth. However, Kalos said the collective was willing to offer a deal. They would give humanity access to basic galactic technology. In return, humans would provide labor, simple work, cleaning ships, moving cargo, tasks that other species found beneath them. It was the best offer a useless world like Earth could expect. The leaders of Earth felt insulted, but they also felt afraid. The Valorian ships had weapons that could turn continents into ash, so they agreed. They signed the treaty. They became the lowest workers in the galactic community. For the first 5 years, humans did exactly what was expected. They cleaned, they carried. They worked in the hot engine rooms of massive transport ships. They were treated like animals by most alien species. The Valorians looked down on them. The insect-like Kreth refused to even speak to them. The water-dwelling Manu called them ground crawlers and laughed at their small size. But something strange began to happen. Something the aliens did not expect. A human worker named David Chen was assigned to a Valorian cargo ship called the Endless March. His job was to organize storage containers in the lower decks. It was boring work. The containers were heavy, and the Valorian overseers gave him no tools to help. But David did not complain. He just watched and learned. After 3 months, David noticed a problem. The containers were always placed in a random order. This meant that when the ship needed to unload cargo at a port, the crew had to search through hundreds of containers to find the right ones. It wasted time. It wasted fuel. David thought about this for many nights. Finally, he created a system. He started organizing the containers by destination. He placed the ones that needed to be unloaded first near the doors. He put the ones going to the same planets together. He kept a simple list in his head of where everything was. The Valorian captain noticed that unloading times had decreased by 40%. He called David to his chamber and asked how this was possible. David explained his system. The captain was confused. The Valorians had never thought to organize things this way. Their brains did not work like that. They processed information in patterns that humans could not understand, but they had no talent for what David called logistics. To them, organizing physical objects was just something that happened. They never tried to improve it. The captain was impressed. He gave David a better position. He told other captains about the human and his strange ability. Word spread slowly at first. Then it spread faster. On a Kreth mining station, a human woman named Maria Santos was working as a cleaner. She watched the Kreth engineers struggle with a broken machine for 3 days. They kept trying to fix the inside, but nothing worked. Maria walked up during her break and pointed at a small pipe on the outside. It was cracked. The Kreth had never looked there because their training told them to always start from the core of a machine. Maria thought differently. She looked at the whole system. She saw connections that the Kreth missed. The pipe was fixed in 10 minutes. The machine worked perfectly. The Kreth were shocked. They offered Maria a job as an assistant engineer. Within a year, She was running a whole team. These stories repeated across the galaxy. Humans solved problems that had bothered aliens for centuries. They fixed systems that were considered unfixable. They looked at things from angles that other species could not imagine. The galaxy began to call it the human perspective. It was something no other species had. It was a combination of creativity, adaptability, and a strange kind of thinking that connected ideas in unexpected ways. Scientists tried to study it. They scanned human brains. They ran tests, but they could not copy it. They could not teach it. It was something unique to Earth. The Valorian collective had thought humans were useless. Now they realized they had made a terrible mistake. Trade negotiations changed. Humans were no longer offered simple labor contracts. They were offered positions as advisors, engineers, and problem solvers. The price for human workers increased every year. Earth went from being the poorest world in the galaxy to one of the fastest growing. But not everyone was happy about this change. The Kreth did not like that humans were taking engineering jobs. The Manu did not like that humans were becoming wealthy. The Valorians did not like that a species they had dismissed was now becoming powerful. Old alliances began to crack. Tensions rose. A Kreth military commander named Vraxis decided to act. He believed that humans were a threat to the natural order of the galaxy. He gathered a fleet of warships and prepared to attack Earth. He would destroy the human homeworld and scatter the survivors across the stars. Without Earth, humans would lose their identity. They would fade away like so many other conquered species. Vraxis did not announce his plan. He kept it secret from the collective council. He wanted to strike fast before anyone could stop him. But Vraxis made one mistake. He underestimated human adaptability. A young human woman named Elena worked on Vraxis's flagship as a translator. She had learned to read Kreth body language. She noticed that the soldiers were nervous. She noticed that the ship was traveling in the wrong direction. She put the pieces together. Elena could not send a message to Earth directly. The Kreth would detect it. So she came up with another plan. She modified a small cleaning drone. She programmed it to carry a coded message. She launched it from the garbage disposal system during a routine dump. The drone floated through space for 6 days before a human cargo ship picked it up. The message reached Earth with 1 week to spare. Earth did not have a military fleet. They had no weapons that could match the Kreth warships. But they had something else. They had 10 years of connections. They had friends on every space station and trading post in the sector. They had built relationships with thousands of species and millions of individuals. The humans called in every favor. They sent messages to every ally. They explained what was about to happen. When Vraxis's fleet arrived at Earth, they found a wall of ships waiting for them. There were Valorian cruisers sent by captains who remembered David Chun and his organizing system. There were Manu transport ships filled with warriors who had fought alongside humans in the asteroid colonies. There were even a few Kreth vessels whose crews had refused to follow Vraxis's orders. Vraxis was stunned. He had expected an easy victory. Instead, he faced a coalition larger than any he had ever seen. He ordered a retreat. His career was over. His fleet was disbanded. The Kreth government apologized to Earth and offered a new treaty. But the most important change was invisible. The galaxy had seen something new. They had seen species working together not because of conquest or fear, but because of friendship. Humans had built that network. They had connected beings that had never spoken before. They had created trust where there was only suspicion. The Valorian ambassador Kalos returned to Earth 10 years after first contact. He stood before the same United Nations Assembly where he had offered that insulting trade deal. This time, he came to ask for help. The collective was facing a crisis. Their old systems of governance were failing. Their economy was unstable. They needed new ideas. They needed the human perspective. Earth agreed to help, but not as servants, as partners. Over the next 50 years, humans spread across the galaxy. They did not conquer. They did not dominate. They connected. They solved problems. They helped species understand each other. They became the bridge between worlds that had been enemies for millennia. The qualities that had made humans useless to the aliens at first contact were the same qualities that made them invaluable now. Their creativity, their adaptability, their ability to see patterns and connections that others missed, their talent for making friends. Some historians called it the human era. Some called it the Great Connection, but most simply called it the Awakening. It was the moment when the galaxy realized that strength was not only about weapons and technology. It was also about ideas and relationships. Earth became the center of a new galactic order, not because it was powerful, not because it was wealthy, but because it was trusted. Beings from every corner of the galaxy came to Earth to learn. They studied human art and philosophy. They tried to understand how such a small and seemingly primitive species had changed everything. The answer was simple, though most aliens never fully understood it. Humans had always been good at seeing value where others saw nothing. They had always been good at making connections. They had always been good at adapting to new situations and finding creative solutions. These were not special powers. They were just part of being human. The galaxy had called Earth useless. They had been wrong. David Chun retired to a small house on the coast of his home country. He spent his final years teaching young humans about the galaxy and the opportunities it offered. He always told them the same thing. Never let anyone tell you that you are worthless. Never accept that your ideas do not matter. The universe is full of problems waiting to be solved. All you have to do is look at them differently. Elena received the highest honor the new Galactic Council could offer. She became the first human to serve as a permanent ambassador to all species. She spent her life traveling between worlds and building bridges. Maria Santos founded the first human engineering academy. Her students went on to design ships that were faster, cleaner, and more efficient than anything the galaxy had seen before. And Earth kept spinning. Its people kept dreaming. Its children kept looking up at the stars with wonder. The path to glory had been long and difficult, but it had been worth every step.